Everybody, my name's Scott Hebbard. I'm the Communications Manager here at Spark Systems, and today we are presenting on Enterprise Architect in a typical day of a business analyst. And it's really great to have so many people join us here today online, and I am looking forward to our presentation. Our presenter today is Nithya Krishnan. Nithya has CBAP certification and is an experienced IT consultant specializing in solutions for business analysis, business data modeling, business intelligence, and information architecture. She has a great deal of experience in all phases of IT projects and in a variety of industries with niche skills in Spark Systems Enterprise Architect. She's a certified business analysis practitioner and a competent business strategist with expertise in aligning business goals to technology solutions to drive process improvements and innovation.
Great introduction. Thank you, Scott.
My pleasure. So the agenda for today, we're going to talk about how to submit questions. We're going to discuss the role of business analyst and how EA can assist. We're then going to show an animation that shows and outlines the typical day of a business analyst, and we'll finish up with some Q&A from the audience. So please note for all of our audience, the audio is muted for all participants. So you won't necessarily be able to talk, but you will be able to type questions to the host. That information will come through to me as the host, and if we can't answer all questions live, we'll follow up offline. On the right of screen, you'll see the GoToWebinar text box. So please enter text into text box, and you can hit send or hit enter on the numeric keypad, and that'll come through to me as the host. And then I'm sure we can rely on Nithya's expertise to answer some of those questions at the end of the session. And if we don't get to it live, we'll be happy to follow up offline. And this presentation will be made available on YouTube and on the Spark Systems website. So if you have BA friends that would like to follow up, please pass on this information. So what I'd like to do now is hand over to Nithya, and she's going to present on Enterprise Architect for business analysis. So thank you very much, Nithya, and I'm looking forward to the presentation.
My pleasure, Scott. Welcome, everyone. So I'm going to share my screen right now before starting with the presentation. Scott, can you see the screen?
I certainly can, and it says in this webinar, so looking forward.
Alrighty, here we go. As many of Enterprise Architect users know, Enterprise Architect is an extensive tool with many capabilities that support business architecture and business analysis. In this webinar, we'll be touching upon some of the Enterprise Architect's capabilities that support business analysts in performing their everyday activities at work in a typical day. When I meet people in the industry and say I'm a certified business analyst, I often get asked, what exactly do you do as a business analyst? So let's begin with a short storyboard that explains the role of a business analyst in an organization. Scott, may I request you to play the audio video from the handout?
A business analyst helps businesses to solve their problems by eliminating or overcoming technical and functional challenges. To do this, it's important to understand the problems, find the root causes, define these accurately, and then recommend actions to solve the problems. Generally, the role of a business analyst is to liaise between business and technical teams. The job is to convert the business needs to technical requirements and then communicate them to the technical teams who will start developing technical solutions for the business problems. Every day in a business analyst job is different, but for most days, BAs deal with changing requirements due to changes in regulations, policies, market conditions, constraints, resources, skills, and capability of resources. Despite these challenges, business analysts, along with project managers, need to progress in their project while aligning their business goals, project schedule, and budgetary needs. BAs collaborate with every stakeholder of their project. They travel to the client space, facilitate workshops, conduct interviews, and observe processes with the stakeholders, all to elicit requirements. After the requirements verification and the requirements analysis and design, the BAs communicate these requirements to technical teams who are most often located in geographically dispersed locations, especially in today's world.
I really like that storyboard because it helps to point out how crucial the role of a business analyst is, and so it's fantastic. I can just see you're muted at the moment, Nithya, so I'll just get you to unmute. And yeah, so I really like that animation, and I think it's fantastic to see all the different aspects of a BA role in a short, concise animation.
Thank you, Scott. So now we know the role of a business analyst. Let's delve into the details. The most important thing I would like to focus in this webinar is the importance of requirements visualization. The words that you're seeing on the screen right now are from a book called How to Be an Agile Business Analyst from Kent McDonald. It's a good read. Today, Agile is the mantra for people in technology industries. Agile teams are using user stories extensively, which is good. However, user-centric development of solutions must also consider the changes and new features might impact processes and components in other areas of interconnected systems. Therefore, a holistic approach to solution becomes very critical. For a business analyst to take a holistic approach to recommend solutions, it is clear from the words on the screen that using just user stories are not enough. We need requirement models and designs to verify, validate, and do impact assessments of the requirements that are to be developed and implemented. More importantly, requirements designs and models helps in establishing relationships and traceability between solution entities and components. Enterprise Architect helps you establish end-to-end relationship and traceability for your solutions. So why we need to establish relationship and traceability? It is in order to enable an effective impact assessment. As a business analyst, you will be focusing on creating technology solutions that will have an average lifetime of 5 to 10 years or even more. In the span of time, changes and updates and new features are all inevitable. So that means creating a proper foundation for effective impact assessment and gap analysis becomes very critical to the success of your projects. So keeping the importance of requirements visualization in your thoughts, in all our thoughts, let's watch another short storyboard that introduces you to a BA and her typical day at work. Scott, may I request you to play the second storyboard, please?
It's coming up now.
Let's introduce you to Sandra. Sandra is a business analyst. Sandra uses Enterprise Architect for all her business analysis activities. Sandra starts the day at 9 a.m. by logging into Enterprise Architect. In the first 15 minutes, she opens the calendar in EA and checks her agenda and makes any plans for the day's activities. From 9:15 to 9:30, she opens her model mail and performs the usual communication activities via her model mail. Between 9:30 and 10:15, she grabs a coffee and opens a Gantt chart to check on her project tasks. She then adds items to her to-do list and makes any appointments with the stakeholders for meetings. She then updates the Gantt chart with her tasks to be completed for the week. And finally, she starts the preparation for the stand-up meeting. Between 10:15 and 11, she attends the stand-up meeting, where she uses EA's Kanban backlog diagram to run over the tasks listed. At 11 o'clock, post the stand-up meeting, she gets back to her desk and notes down any issues, risks, and changes to the resources in the Kanban journal ready for further discussion. Then she starts preparing for the next meeting. Between 11:30 and 12 noon, Sandra attends a meeting with a subject matter expert and user experience expert to verify and discuss the requirements. At midday, Sandra takes a half-hour lunch break. At 12:30, she gets back to her desk and prepares for the next meeting with the technical team on requirements clarification and discussion. At 12:45 to 2 p.m., Sandra attends a meeting with the technical team on requirements clarification and discussion. Between 2 p.m. and 4 p.m., she works on a task for an approved requirements change. She also generates some activity flow models and test cases, performs some use case testing, records the defects in the project defects log, and sends necessary notifications and feedback to the team members. Then finally, she generates a test report using EA's documentation feature. From 4:30 to 5:30, Sandra attends a meeting with the project manager and the delivery manager for discussion on the project's progress, new changes, new issues, and KPI dashboards. At the end of the meeting, she records the meeting notes for future reference. At 5:30, having finished her activities for the day as planned, Sandra signs off from work.
Excellent. That's a very good storyboard animation, I believe, to explain a typical day. What do you think, Scott?
Oh, it's fantastic, and it's funny how Sandra starts the day very similar to I do. I open my model mail and I check my calendar and I look at the Kanban, and so even though I don't spend all my day doing business and analyst activities, she starts the day in a very similar way that I do.
Yeah, it keeps the entire team together and has great collaboration features, I should say. So now we know Sandra, our fictional BA persona. Let's see how she uses Enterprise Architect for her work. I'm going to play the screen recording of Enterprise Architect model repository that assumes Sandra working for a health insurance organization. And today she's focusing on insurance claims processes. Scott, are you able to see the screen?
Yes, I can see it. It looks great. Thanks, Nithya.
Sandra Weissman opens Enterprise Architect and logs into her company's main repository, hosted in a server at the company's headquarters via a connection using the ProCloud server. The project management diagram, which is set as a default diagram, opens. The diagram acts as a homepage to access the project management artifacts in Enterprise Architect. Users may set any diagram in the model to be the default diagram to suit their needs. So now if you focus on the left side of the screen, you can see the project browser. It will be highlighted in a moment. And as you can see in the repository is well organized. This enables Sandra, there you go, it's highlighted. It is well organized, isn't it not? It enables Sandra to find the business analysis information in the repository that she needs quickly. A well-organized repository is critical for the successful adoption of Enterprise Architect in your organization. It helps in efficient management of user access control, version control, establishing traceability, etc. Now, let's see the workspace settings that Sandra uses. As you can see, on the top part on the screen is the menu ribbon. That's where, yeah, it's highlighted. So you click on the workspace menu in the ribbon and a drop-down menu pops up. And Sandra's clicking on Manage Workspaces, which will open up this workspace dialog. You see, Sandra has set the BABOK guide in her My Workspace. So BABOK is Business Analysis Body of Knowledge from International Institute of Business Analysis. It is a well-recognized standard for business analysis practice. Sandra uses Enterprise Architect's built-in BABOK guide to refer to and implement BA document templates and BA techniques that will suit the needs for her task. It's a handy tool to have for a business analyst. The current workspace is set to collaborate, which you can see in a minute, in a moment. Here we go, that's highlighted. So as a business analyst, Sandra's daily job involves a lot of communication and collaboration. In current times, it has become overly essential to do effective remote collaboration. Fortunately, Spark Systems Enterprise Architect is loaded with different levels of collaboration support. Using combinations of ProCloud Server with WebEA and Collaborate gives you powerful options to manage collaboration at different levels of authority to your organization's repository. So even without WebEA and Collaborate, there are built-in collaboration features, which we'll be discussing in today's webinar. We'll see how Sandra uses the built-in collaboration features. The collaboration menu ribbon is highlighted. There you go. You can see there's options for discussions, reviewing an element, team library, and mail, calendar, managing journal, etc. So on the right side of the screen is the Collaborate panel. This will be highlighted in a moment. This is where you can actually collaborate with your team members. This is the space where you actually type in your comments, discussion points, your review, approvals, etc. User chats, like you can have one-on-one chats in 15.2 or group chats. When I mean 15.2, it's version 15.2 of Enterprise Architect, and there's a journal entry. You can have journal entries for each and every element, which will actually document historical records on discussion points. So progressing from there, let's move back to Sandra's day. Let's say it's 9 a.m. in Sandra's day, in Sandra's world. As the daily starter, she opens the calendar to look at her agenda for the day. So she's selecting the date as 28th May 2020, and you can see there are 4 events that are logged for her in the calendar. Sandra's team follows Agile development practice. So there's a team stand-up meeting that happens every day at 10:15. Then there's a meeting with a subject matter expert and user experience expert to validate requirements. Later in the day, there's a meeting with the technical team to clarify requirements. And then towards the end of the day, she has to meet the project manager and delivery manager to discuss on the project progress. Sandra makes some notes on her plan for the day. As you can see, there's so much of collaboration and communication that the business analyst is doing. This also emphasizes on how important communication skills are for business analysts. Going back, not only for business analysts, I believe for everyone in the industry. Moving back to Sandra's world, let's say it's 9:15, and now Sandra checks model mail, which will be highlighted now. There you go. The model mail opens up. This is a shared repository as well, like the model mail. You can send mail to people who are users in the repository. Sandra now checks the mails, marks the ones that need immediate actions, marks the ones that need follow-up actions, then spend some time responding to emails and responding to immediate actions that she has to do, and then sending follow-up emails, etc. And after spending a quarter hour on doing that, let's say it's 9:30 now, and Sandra moves on to see her personal tasks. So she opens the Gantt chart, that's the menu there, which she will be clicking to open the Gantt chart. And now the Gantt chart has opened up, shows all the tasks that are set for her. She notices health point system design, which is in progress, and she remembers that she needs to clarify and gather more information in order to progress on this particular task. So Sandra maintains a checklist of her tasks to complete for each week. That's a good habit. She opens the checklist diagram that will be highlighted. Yeah, here we go, for every month, and the diagram opens up, and there's a view of a checklist. Sandra selects the checklist for the week, which is week 4, and then there are already 3 tasks there in her to-do list and 1 completed, and she adds another task in the checklist, saying, okay, I need to clarify such and such information from the stakeholder. Now she makes a quick call to the relevant stakeholders, to check when she can meet to discuss on the requirements. Now she opens the calendar and schedules the meeting accordingly to the availability of the stakeholder. So there's the calendar option. Clicking on the calendar option opens the calendar. Click on the date that the meeting has to happen, agreed upon date and agreed upon time. Double click there. Nice and early in the morning before the standard meeting. Set the meeting. That's it. Now this task is done. Sandra then sends her to-do list to, say, the project manager, Sandeep Gupta, as she regularly keeps him updated about her tasks. She is very transparent about her workload and her tasks, which actually helps in having a good relationship with the project managers. Helps you professionally, which I normally do. There you go. And say that's the diagram link. So when Sandeep Gupta clicks on the diagram link, May 2020 and then week 4, what happens is Sandeep can easily see the to-do list. So there is no need for copy paste or typing in the emails, etc. Saves a lot of time. So she sends the email to Sandeep saying, okay, can you see there's my to-do list for this week, blah, 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 and then gets back to our regular business. Now, let's say it's 10:15. Sandra prepares for the standard meeting, and at 10:30, Sandra attends the team standard meeting. She opens the Kanban board, looks through the backlog for the team and tasks for her. Then the discussion happens. She takes notes in meetings. Now she updates the journal for the Kanban. You can see I'm scrolling Kanban diagram, which will show the entire list. You have the to-do, in progress, and review. So you can also create backlog diagrams. So that's a done column as well. So on the right side of the screen, you can still see the collaborate panel. That is where Sandra is going to add the journal entry as highlighted for the points that were discussed in the meeting. Say, for example, the stakeholders are unavailable to discuss on a particular thing. So that's an issue which needs to be addressed. And then deletion of family members from a family membership, blah, 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 creates an issue. Too many contradicting rules identified in the health point system. So there has to be some more information, clarifications that needs to happen in this particular area of requirements gathering and the citation. So there's another way is to add discussion points in the comments section. Rather, if you don't want to have it on the journal, you can have it on the comments section or the discussion section where people can discuss, the team members can collaborate, etc. So when users are connected to the team repository using ProCloud Server, agile teams can have remote stand-up meetings, which I think is the need for today's time. Everyone working from home. So remote collaboration is very effective here because you record all the discussion points within the repository. The updates, issues, and discussion points can be recorded for future use on the repository itself. That's exactly right. The teams can have social contracts on how to use collaboration features, you see. So we need social contracts because it's a chat platform. We don't want people to be sending, social chats in this panel. So as mentioned earlier, different levels of authoring can be set for managing collaboration from within EA. Now it is 11 a.m. Sandra finishes. Sandra gets back to her desk, notes down issues, risks, changes to the resources, etc. in the Kanban journal for further discussion. Then she prepares for the subject matter expert meeting. And say it is 11 a.m. in Sandra's world. Sandra attends the meeting. So with the subject matter expert and user experience expert for the claim audit process requirements validation. So she opens up the BPMN diagram for this meeting. As you would see in this as is diagram, as is model of this particular process, claim audit. Say that's a BPMN activity. BPMN activity selected in the diagram, and the one that highlighted area there is from the properties window for that particular element. As you can see, it's all the properties according to BPMN standards are there. Scroll down, you can see the loop, execution, and other characteristics that are relevant for a BPMN activity, and version here is BPMN 2.0. So as you can see, in this model, there are some information gaps, very obvious. And I will say, I can see Sandra using pan and zone. Okay, so there's a highlighted, notice the highlighted activities. There's an activity 2.0 and activity 3.0. There is a decision between these two activities, which says, is rule valid to send out? If yes, there's one path, and if not, what to do? The information is not going to model yet. So that discussion happens on this. So clicking on discussions, the collaborate panel opens up. So if it's a remote discussion, you can use this discussion panel. Even if it's one-on-one discussion, people are inside the room, we can use this collaborate panel to record the discussion points in the journal, which is very helpful for future references. As you can see, Sandra is using the discuss feature, starts a discussion on this item. So once a discussion happens in this BPMN diagram, they move on and all the information gaps are addressed. They move on to the customer journey map. That's also another agenda for this meeting where the user experience expert needs to validate on the, needs to ask questions and validate a few things on the customer touch points. So in a minute, you'll be seeing Sandra opening the customer journey map. In the repository, you can say the structure, analysis, activity diagrams, etc. So the customer journey maps clicked, the diagram opens up, and you can. This is just a simple screen, the flow of control within the screens of a website. Let's assume that. And the screens used here are simple screens. For the example of this webinar, you can see that from the properties window. In Enterprise Architect, you can create complex user interface diagrams. So how to do that? There's this perspectives menu. Click on that. It will open up the perspective sets dialog box where the user experience design is selected. When this is selected, you'll be able to create the user interface diagrams. As you can see, wireframe diagrams which supports iOS, which will support iOS device screens or Android screens, etc. And then interaction flow models, Win32 models, etc. All the basic UI models. This is how we create user experience diagrams. So you don't need to use different tools when you're using here. So now this is discussed. This itself is not enough for doing the analysis of this process. We need to have some, Sandra needs to do some document analysis as well. So that's the Steam library, which will allow Sandra to store all the supporting documents as evidences, which will be stored in the team library. There you go, that's the team library. You can see Sandra has clicked on understanding claims, which is under tax office legislation. So on clicking that, the team document opens up and all you can see is a hyperlink. Let's see where this hyperlink takes pass. Clicking on it, that's actually a link to the tax office website, which explains the claims processes that businesses should adhere to. So this is from the legislation side, policy side. Let's see. The organization, the health insurance organization, also has their own policy rules for the claims. So this document is added from the file system, as you saw. So once this file system, the file has been added to the team library, it is there for the entire team to see, and it's in one place. It's all linked to the model, so you can open it anytime and see. It is also worth mentioning here that Enterprise Architect integrates with SharePoint system, just in case if you want to know if you can link to the documents that are in the SharePoint folders. So again, that will be a hyperlink to the SharePoint file system in that case. So that's how the document, they open the documents, do some document analysis, and then get back to the next activity. It's half a day gone. It's 12 p.m. in Sandra's world. She takes a lunch break. Half an hour, she returns back to her desk at 12:30 and prepares for the next meeting with the technical development team, which is to clarify some requirements, technical requirements. So after preparing for the meeting at 12:45, Sandra attends the meeting with all relevant use case models, process diagrams, sequence diagrams, etc., ready for zooming onto the meeting room screen for discussion. Let's assume this is happening in the office and everybody is there in the meeting room and she has to zoom this diagram onto the meeting screen. It is quite easy. It gives you full screen options, pan and zoom options, etc. Even it's easy for remote collaboration. As you can see, I'm screening this on the presentation tool. So Sandra is using the pan and zoom to scroll between the ends of the diagram. It's a very handy tool, pan and zoom, to use when you have huge models. Sandra then selects the BPMN activity element, review, claim, and update transaction that has become the subject of discussion. So now they discuss on this particular activity. She now opens the respective use case diagram. So the use case here that is relevant to review, claim, and update transaction is reconcile diagrams. As you can see, there's a little infinity kind of a symbol there. That means that that particular use case has the drill down option set up. When I say drill down, let's see what it is. So reconcile payments will be selected. You can create child diagrams within any element inside EA. This easily allows the drill down capability. There you go. Clicking on reconcile payments will open up the sequence diagram. That's a child diagram of this use case. You see how easy it is to build relationship in the repository. So that's the particular use case. What are all the scenarios that happens inside that use case? What is the sequence flow? Just create a sequence diagram as a child diagram for the use case. You can create an activity diagram which will serve the needs. So let's say in this example, Sandra has created a sequence diagram which clearly will tell the message flows and the control flows between the entities in the software complex, in the software solution. And here is the again, using pan and zoom, you can see the entire diagram, and then Sandra selecting one particular entity, which is now the subject of interest for the discussion, payment service. So a note is added which corresponds to this particular entity and activity. So let's see what the problem is. So Sandra has gone to the collaborator window and has typed in payment service must generate missing transactions report on reconciliation. So this is one requirement, but then is this function available in ISIS? I mean, again, Sandra needs to clarify on this. So if it's available, is it a manual task or is it an automated task? So why is it missing? What to do about it? That's what the discussion is about. There's a discussion point, etc. So now that all this discussion happens, there'll be more happening in real scenario. Let's say, for this example, they have finished and wrapped up the discussion. It is 2 p.m. now. Sandra gets back to her work, to her desk. She does some review tasks that are allotted for her. Okay, Gantt. And then she needs to work on a requirement design, say submit claim, due to change in some regulation, let's assume. So Sandra opens up the use case, submit claim for online claim submission. She opens up the scenario editor. So on double clicking the use case, you will get the properties dialog. In that, there's the scenario menu, which you select. And then this opens up the scenario tab. You can see basic path, alternate path, paths, and exception path are all added. And then you see the structure editor. Clicking on the structure editor will open up the structure editor dialog here. So she uses ES capability for automatic generation of activity diagram and test cases from the use case. We'll see that in a minute. So simple with an enterprise architect. I love this feature. So Sandra clicks on the toolbar menu. You can see the toolbar ribbon up there. See the basic part and then scenarios basic part, and then there's a small toolbar ribbon there. So the generated diagram option is clicked, and then you see the options are to create activity diagram, activity parameter, etc. Voila! Here is the activity diagram. Just in a click of a button, you just type in all the basic part, alternate part, exception part, click generate activity diagram, and you get the activity diagram. See the project browser, that's the activity there. Now clicking on that particular activity diagram, Sandra clicks on collaborate and then sends chat message to the team to verify or to view this particular diagram and get some feedback. Go, it's so simple, isn't it? Just click on a button, get the diagram, review it, and then just say, okay, can you please check this diagram? There's no need to make it as an image file, add it as an attachment, send it. If you change anything, then you send it. On the other end, people would be thinking like, which one is the latest version? So it's all here in real time. Okay, going back. Sandra needs to do some testing, so she needs to generate some test cases. Let's assume that she is doing some scenario testing. Go to the scenarios, open the structure editor, click on the menu for creating test cases. You can create test suite, internal, external test case, etc. Let's assume that she's creating an internal test case. Generation is complete. Here you go. There is the test case. Now you can see the testing window has automatically opened up on the bottom part of the screen, which will be highlighted in a moment. So Sandra is using this testing window to run her test and update the status of the test. There's one test case that has failed. So this is scenario testing. You can see in the testing window, there are options to do unit test, integration test, system test, acceptance test, which is for user acceptance criteria and inspection tests. So there's several different tests that can be performed here. So once this test is all done, Sandra needs to generate a test report. She has performed all the testing activities. She needs to generate a report, say a Word document, to send it to her manager or the concerned party. So Sandra has clicked on the report builder option. You can see on the top part of the menu. And then You can create various types of reports. So Sandra wants to create a test report. Clicks on generate documentation. This will open up the generate documentation dialog box. She's clicking on the test report template. There are some basic templates that comes within EA. Users can create their own templates and modify them. And clicks on generate. And we'll see in a second. That's how fast it is. See, we've got the test report and the editing document toolbar that has opened it automatically when the test report opens. As this is the word document. There it is. You can now customize this report as per your needs. Add in more information if you like. And then this document can be added to the team library or maybe added to the SharePoint folders or in some shared space. Being in a team library is something that I would recommend adding it to the team library. So after testing, she selects the test case and opens the defects window. So she has to log in the problem, the issue, right? So the maintenance window opens up as highlighted at the bottom part of the screen. So she logs in the defect here, which will be notified. We can set it to be automatically notified to the respective developer to do the bug fixing. Okay. After doing all these tasks, just done some review tasks, created some scenarios, tested some scenarios, generated some activity diagram. After testing, she has generated the test report and logged in the bugs that she has found out during testing, etc. So now it's 4:30, time to meet with the project manager and the delivery manager to report on the project progress. Going back to the project management diagram, which is the home page, access the home page. Clicking on the project in the repository, say project BHSQ, opens up the construct ribbon, toolbar ribbon, and you can see there the menus available there, Kanban, resource Gantt. So this is for the entire project or the entire team, and my Kanban will show only the tasks for yourself, or my Gantt chart tasks for yourself. Various other menus there. We will touch upon those as we progress through the example. With all the tasks set for the day completed, Sandra attends this meeting happily. The Gantt chart is opened in the meeting to see the progress earlier in the day. Okay, so the tasks for each and every resource are discussed for any issues. And task allocated to Selena, that's selected. Sandra remembers that during the standard meeting, Selena mentioned she'll be away in the first 2 weeks of June. Let's assume that due to medical leave. She has applied for medical leave, so that's something that they should consider during for resource reallocation. Once she mentions this information, they open the resource, the team, the project manager opens the resource allocation window. There you go. So they see they look on the task, open the resource allocation window, looks on this particular task, and you can see there are like 3 people involved on this task. Bruce is implementing, Derek is designing, Selena is designing, and Derek has been involved in this from 3rd of April until 5th of June, and Selena has allotted this task from 1st of June to 20th of June. So considering that she's going to be on medical leave and Derek has already worked on this, a decision is made that Derek will continue working on this until the return of Selena. So see, it's all in one place. Your discussion happens. Bring up the Gantt chart. There's the resource allocation. What is she doing? What's she working on? Who else has been working on this? If at all the delivery manager wants to know what exactly, where has the design stopped, and just the traceability is all there. They can click on the task, see what models she has worked on, and what's the status of that, any discussion points there, everything can be looked at from one place. So after this discussion, my favorite, the RAID log discussion. How many of you have experience doing the RAID log discussions using Excel? Gosh, it's a nightmare. I should say, they have clicked on the decisions, the project decisions dialog opens. As you can see, there are tabs for decisions, events, efforts, risks, and metrics. There are few decisions there. And then the tasks, project tasks are opened, project issues are opened. You can see Sandra organizing these windows in a tabbed way, in a stacked way, from top to bottom. It enables her to efficiently conduct the discussion without having to jump between tabs of windows and having to establish relationship between this addition, this an issue. So let's create an ID in Excel and then link it to the project issue or the task, etc. The relationship is built in. That's the screen. The screen will be projected, I assume, on the presentation screen for the meeting, and then the discussion happens. It's much easier to discuss RAID log this way, don't you think? So let's say there's an event and server is coming to end of life in September 2020. So that that means there's a risk there or an issue there that has to be raised. So the risk here is, okay, Microsoft Server 2003 used for automated insurance claim is coming to end of life in 30th June. See, that's there. And there are a few other risks and decisions there. You can have attributes like status. For the purpose of RAID log, only the new and open issues and tasks and decisions and efforts and risks are discussed. You can select to even say closed ones, etc., or ones that are ineffective decisions, etc., just to see the historical data. So you can see there was project issues and insufficient testing by offshore team in a particular team. So now we have to raise a task to address this issue. A task is raised, meet with the offshore testing lead to discuss and perform. So simple, just right click. The task is created. It is not just a statement in an Excel and then somebody goes out and sends an email and actions this task. So this task is created and it can be automatically allotted to the person who needs to do it, and it's there on their agenda. When they open the Gantt chart, the task comes up. So there is no need to spend time on, creating, making a note, going back, adding a task separately, etc. It's all there. The project manager straight away adds a task there to the relevant person to attend to this particular issue. So that's how efficient RAID log can be conducted when using enterprise architecture. So now after this discussion, team now looks upon the new changes for the week. As you can see, there's one change. From the menu, you can see you can have open up new issues or just the issues for last week, last month, last 90 days, recently reported, recently resolved, or just the unresolved issues, depending on the interest in the meeting or what needs to be discussed in the meeting. They select the options. And there's also the filter menu there. Here, as you can see, your issues, that's what's selected, after which the documents window is opened. After discussing everything there that needs to be discussed, they open the maintenance window where the progress update document is deciding. The progress update document is clicked on. And then you can see the description. So whatever have been discussed in this particular meeting can be updated here. You can also see the history tab, which will store historical information. So you never lose information on what you have discussed last week or the week before or last month. It's all there for you to view. As the project progresses, you can just go into the history and then see what has been discussed in every meeting. So this is done. The last task they are going to look at is the standard KPIs of the project. Sandra clicks on the reporting charts. There's standard charts that she has opened up. We can see the diagram, which shows a chart that shows element defects by status and priority. So we can see a group called complete, another stat new, and another stat verified, and the numbers. The blue ones are high, red ones are low, and green ones are medium. You can see the statistics of these particular, KPIs. So now there should be standards saying this many number of defects has to be attended to, or the priority one defects has in a week this has to be attended to, etc., etc. Moving on. How do you create charts in Enterprise Architect? That's how I'm going to show you now. The toolbox is opened up for this particular model view, the diagram. You can see how simple it is to create a chart. See there, elements by status. Just click the element there and drop it onto the diagram. That's it. And the chart is created. It's all built in. For example, let's say we need to know a list of unrealized requirements. Sandra has clicked on it from the model views, drags and drops onto the diagram, and you can see the model view properties window opens. As you can see, it's basically an SQL query that's querying the repository or database and pulls all the information that will show the list of unrealized requirements. So this SQL query is customizable. It's not fixed. Like, and if you want to change that to just say non-functional requirements or just the functional requirements, etc., you can change it. And then in a second, you will see the list of requirements loading in the model view. There you go. So that's the list of unrealized requirements. They discuss on the unrealized requirements, why it's not, what's the issues, etc., etc. So now Sandra has dragged and dropped the list of failed tests. So this is again in a similar way, drags the failed tests from the model views here, and then drops it onto the diagram. See, let's say there's only one failed test, invalid member ID. Testing is happening quite effectively, and bugs are getting fixed. So there's only one failed test for the week that Sandra has tested recently. The day, and that's the list of failed tests. So the discussion, they wrap up the discussion saying all the standard KPIs. So that's it. Now, when Sandra's day comes to an end, I mean, Sandra's day at work comes to an end. How efficient was Sandra's day using Enterprise Architect? I think it's excellent. What do you think, Scott?
I think it's excellent as well. Everything from RAID logs to requirements to models to documentation, and it's all done within the one tool. So it's fantastic. There's quite a few questions, so if you don't mind, I might just hand some questions over to you, Nithya.
Sure, Scott.
So first question is from Ramesh, and Ramesh says, what are the advantages of using Spark Systems Enterprise Architect over tools such as Word, Excel, and Visio? And there's kind of follow-up, how does it make a BA's life easier?
Oh, that's an excellent question. As I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, a single version of truth is very important for an effective, impact assessment. And having a single repository for your business analysis information together with all the business architecture information allows one to establish end-to-end traceability, right? So if you have documents separately in Word and Excel and Visio, that's again a siloed information, is it not? You have various documents, you do not know which one is the updated one. You send one for review to multiple people, they all send feedbacks, and then which one is the updated version? It's just so complex to manage. It is difficult to achieve shared understanding of the requirements. In here, you can document requirements, model them as use UML diagrams and other industry standard diagrams, generate reports all in one place. Imagine using different tools for different activities. When you go to a meeting and carrying, like, printed out sheets or, different tools, zooming on the screen and scrolling between sheets of Excel. It's, it makes your life so easy and efficient if you're using one tool and everything in one place, is it not? So I'm sure many business analysts here would have experience managing rate log. That's something, oh my God, it's so painful using Excel. The pain of scrolling between the large Excel sheets and, logging in the updates, putting the date. Most of the time you spend just editing the Excel to make it look presentable or make it look manageable, but you're not actually focusing on the discussion, is it not? So having a tool like this makes your life really easy to maintain a documented journal.
Thanks, Nithya. I've got a question here from Henry, which I think is a good question that some BAs might not be aware of. It says, is the EA repository hosted on the cloud server or on the company server? So perhaps you could talk about, because you've shown, logs and requirements and documentation, but just how that might be saved or stored and where that repository could be stored.
It's a very important point, Henry. EA repository can be hosted in both company server inside the company premises, or it could be in a cloud environment, in an AWS public cloud environment. It depends on how we want to use the repository. EA is very flexible, or you can have it in a separate proprietary server inside the organization. All you need to do is install ProCloud Server, which is the middleware for the end users to connect with the server repository and then access them. So EA is a thin client. As I said, the interface is a very thin client. It's just very efficient. If say like 100 people in the team are using the same repository, it's quite efficient. Like I think in at Spark Systems right now, that's how people are working from home. So everyone is accessing the single repository, is it not, Scott?
Absolutely, and I'm working from home right now, so you might have heard the dog barking at the start of the webinar. And yes, so I have the repository in front of me, and I can see everybody's comments, and I can see the chat log, and I can see model mail and the calendar. And some people might prefer to have it as a simple file on a local machine. Other people might set up a database repository, and we support a number of different databases. And all that happens just with Enterprise Architect. And however, if you do want it in the cloud, so everybody within NetAccess can connect to it, as Nithya mentioned, all you need is the ProCloud server. And there's information on sparksystems.com about the ProCloud server, how to set it up and how to use it. And I'll be talking about that at the EA Summit next week. We've got a question from Juan that, and I hope I've pronounced that right. It says, do you see BAs going beyond BPMN UML and contribute also using Archimate regarding the strategy layer and motivation layer, etc.? So perhaps you could speak to that, Nithya.
Absolutely. So as the name says, Enterprise Architect, it's a tool that supports enterprise architecture. So the business analysts who have moved on to the strategy level, like strategy analysts, can use the standard, practices like TOGAF and Archimate, etc. NAVE, which is National Information Exchange Model, etc., in order to do their architecture diagrams, which again is in the same repository with traceability. That's an excellent point. Hope that answers the question.
Yes, no, that's great. I'm conscious of the time, and so I might just wrap things up. But it is great to know that not only does Enterprise Architect support UML and BPMN, but it also supports, motivation, business motivation model, and Archimate, and lots of enterprise architecture standards. So just to wrap up very briefly, I'd like to let you know that this webinar will appear on YouTube and on sparksystems.com. People are able, if they are registered users, to download the Enterprise Architect 15.2 beta immediately, so that's been made available. There's a global virtual conference that's being held next week, and we have a number of webinars, including more webinars that will follow up on this series, available at sparksystems.com/webinars, and you can see the full URLs listed there, so that you can register for more free webinars in the future. So Nithya, I'd just like to thank you for your presentation today. It's been great to see how Enterprise Architect can be used across multiple domains, multiple disciplines, using different technologies, and can really help a BA in a typical day. And so I'll just see if you have any final comments, and then we might close the webinar.
My pleasure, Scott. So as I said, to conclude, Spark Systems Enterprise Architect enables analysts to effectively view the requirements, architectural artifacts with industry standards, coupled with built-in traceability, etc. So to get a single version of truth, that's the main aim. So I hope people have got some value out of this time spent with us today. So hopefully we'll meet in the next webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a great day, everyone, and thanks for joining us today, and look forward to seeing you in future at more Spark Systems Enterprise Architect webinars. So thank you, Nithya, and thank you to our audience, and look forward to seeing you again soon.
Likewise, thank you all.